welcome to the Powerhouse Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Harmon, President and CEO at the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation, and joined today by my special guest co-host, Miss Margaret Moore. Margaret, it's been a while since I've had you hosting with me.
It has. It's been at least a year, I think. So it's nice to be back here. And
are you keeping track of how often I invite you to be the co-host?
No,
My
I'm
apologies.
not.
Well, we've been keeping you busy, that's for sure. And you've since been promoted since the last time that we've had you on here as our Associate Director of Support and Education. And maybe for the uninitiated, just give our listeners a little reminder of what you do at UMDF.
Oh, I wear lots of hats.
Well, we only have a whole hour, including our
I have
guests
lots of hats,
so.
but the first thing I do is serve as our support concierge, which means when a new patient calls, they're going to talk to me first. I spent a lot of today doing that. I also manage our support ambassador program, which is a peer-to-peer support program, and I'm excited to announce that we are 120 support ambassadors strong, and they are from the US, but all over the world. Our support ambassadors do all sorts of cool things, and I can talk a little bit about them later, but I help with our support ambassadors. I manage our support groups. For those of you that are listening that are in our patient community, please visit our website and look at that event calendar. There's something for everyone. And even if a category doesn't fit you, please join us anyway. We're here and we're flexible. And the support groups are for all of our patient community. Our support ambassadors also are very engaged in special projects, and I help with some of that. And I'm later going to brag on our support ambassadors in a little bit because something really cool has happened because of the quality of the volunteers that we have. So those are my main areas of work. I help with our education programming, so our Ask the Mito Doc webcast, our Bench to Bedside, any disease-specific events that we might hold, and I help with symposium. So
right, we preach at UMDF content, right? It's all about providing this information for our patient families. And one of the things I know you've been working on recently, when we talk about developing the content of the patient voice, and we're just on the heels of a very successful listening session for a mitochondrial disease called PDCD. This is our second listening session over the past 2 years. We've also hosted patient-focused drug development meetings with the FDA. We know that consistent drumbeat with the FDA is so important. And you have, I'll call it the distinct responsibility of navigating our patient families through the process of gaining the courage and the ability to share their stories with regulatory bodies. Talk to us a little bit about that experience here the past month.
Well, I will tell you, it's an honor and a privilege to work with these families and help them tailor their stories so that we are able to share sort of the completeness of a specific disease type. The PDCD group, it was amazing working with them. I learned a lot about the disease. I feel like the FDA learned a lot about the disease, and it's interesting to see the threads that kind of run through the families, but also to identify some of those unique features that they may possess that the FDA needs to know about. And the event itself was touching, motivating. It was all of the things that anybody would want it to be in terms of sharing with the FDA about a specific mitotype.
I had the opportunity to listen in, and my takeaway was just the realness of all of it. And not that should surprise us here at UMDF. We fully empathize and appreciate the daily grind our patient families are on. But boy, if you were having just kind of an off day to sit back and listen to those testimonials and understand the very raw and real nature of this disease, and hopefully the work that UMDF is doing to help elevate those voices will bring us ultimately towards a place with treatments and ultimately cures. And that's our goal.
Well, it was exciting that, the questions that were posed by the FDA were all related to like clinical trial endpoints.
Yes.
So you could tell that they see the future, and that was exciting. It was exciting.
It wasn't too long ago that wouldn't have been part of the conversation, right? We appreciate the meteoric rise that's happening in the therapeutic development space. And it can't happen without courageous families stepping up to share their story, to enroll in trials, to make sure that their voice is being heard. So we're grateful to our families who support us in this effort and continue to support us in other ways as well too. Speaking of which, a place where we're seeing a ton of engagement, we are on the heels of Mito Awareness Week. There's been so much good activity. And since you're so much boots on the ground for us, Margaret, what are you seeing out there right now for Mito?
Oh, well, the 23rd, which is tomorrow, the buildings will be green.
Nice.
So keep your eyes on social media to see beautiful pictures of green buildings. But all week, I would encourage everyone to go to UMDF's Facebook page and look at some of the great content that is out there this year. We have Mito facts, we have patient stories, we have, really interesting interviews with some of our patient community. I just think it's been a really exciting year with lots and lots of content. And for those of you that are looking for Mito facts, please just visit umdf.org. And at the bottom, there's a post that includes Mito facts and things that you can share with friends and family so they'll know more about mitochondrial disease.
We know this is a big part of our job. A big part of our job is unfortunately sometimes explaining first and foremost what mito disease is, the mitochondria is. I know I've been in mixed company where I have to pause and make sure I can give a little education on mitochondrial disease. And I'm always so inspired by the mito community and their ability to step up to help build awareness. And the Mito Week is it's a thunderclap of that activity. We know we have so much of that happening the 51 weeks out of the year outside of Mito Awareness Week. And it really is on the backs of volunteers who step up to understand the importance of drawing awareness for the disease. And in many respects, it's the highlight of our special guest today too, Margaret. Someone who has really taken Mito awareness and earned that badge on her sash and doing it in many different ways and harnessing grief in a way to find joy and build awareness at the same time. And I'm really delighted and excited to welcome in our special guest today to the Powerhouse, Miss Carole Mac. Carole, it's good to be with you today.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thank you. It's such an honor to come on your podcast. And I've been affiliated with UMDF and so impressed with UMDF from day one until now. And we've got a lifelong relationship. So thank you so much for having us.
I'm excited to talk to you about that today. And certainly there's a lot in your background and what you're doing today that is so podcast worthy. You're just a Renaissance woman in many respects, Carole. We'll dive into that. But I think it would be good for our listeners and for a refresh for Margaret and ourselves too. Just walk us through what day one looked like with your connection to UMDF.
To UMDF? Well, day one with my son, TJ. This is going back over 12 years. And, we had TJ, and as far as we knew, he was perfectly healthy, perfect APGAR scores right after birth and all of that. But about 5 months in, his head control wasn't quite there. And I was a new mom, and I was like, this isn't what to expect when you're having your firstborn, says something's going on. And so went to a couple doctors, and eventually we went to Nationwide Children's Hospital, and we found out it was a mitochondrial condition. And at that point, I think that's when I reached out to the UMDF just for information, for knowledge, for community, to know that I wasn't alone. And there was just so much support and information, and it really just brought some level of comfort to the most uncomfortable thing you can go through.
Margaret, that's we know that's part of your daily work every day is connecting with families at various points of their journey. And one of the things we're really proud of at UMDF is being able to meet families at different points of their journey.
Yeah.
So Carole, connecting with an organization like UMDF and hopefully leveraging resources and support.
Yeah.
I know what was so important to you was, starting to think of ways that you could redirect your energy. And I want you to just talk to us a little about that journey, because it's not shared by many. And while some find ways to channel grief in a different way, channel this journey in a different way, you made that a priority in your life. And hopefully you could just kind of walk us through that part of your journey.
Sure. I mean, there's a couple ways in which I've sort of gone through the process out to the other side. Yeah. I've used a book that I wrote and was inspired by TJ and my process. And I've used, it's called The Gift of the Ladybug. We'll get there, I bet. And
yes.
that one is one main way that I've used to connect with other families going through difficult diagnoses, critical illness, things like that, as well as a way to give back, raise money for hospitals, Make-A-Wish, UMDF, things like that. And so it's a bibliotherapy book, and it's used as a resource with heads of palliative care in hospitals nationwide, as well as Make-A-Wish and other kind of organizations like that, as well as kind of on the other side, coping with grief and loss, since my son TJ did pass away, but that is not everyone's experience by any stretch. Right. So that's one way that I've sort of turned it around and like, let's bring this back to service and peace and joy in a way, not really joy, I would say peace and comfort. And the way I've used joy is about a year after TJ passed away, he was just the most, and probably every single kid at UMDF lives this, but he was the most peaceful, joyful human that I've ever known. And just spiritual, knew what was going on and was okay with it. Like, yep, mom, I've got this condition and it's going to be hard and I'm okay. I'm totally great. And then he'd laugh. And so he taught me that it's possible to live with a terminal illness, in his case, with joy and freedom and peace and have a great life, which is astonishing, right? So teaching me that huge lesson and just watching it every day in reality, it made me commit to doing that myself in my own life, even after he passes away. So if he can live with a terminal illness with joy and freedom and comfort and laughter, even though he is in pain, having surgeries, that didn't determine his happiness level or joy. So we can live outside of our circumstances. So I'm going to have to find a way to do that as a bereaved mother. And so I have, and I would say the way through that, and I'm maybe touch on this more, but it was a year after he passed away and I was miserable, like absolutely, aching in every cell and every orifice, like nightmares, insomnia. I just couldn't get comfortable. And it was almost like you had the flu, the worst days of the flu, where like it hurts to touch your sheets and everything hurts. And knowing that you're never going to not be in the flu. Like, would you want to live a life of like 84 years or not that many with the flu every day? That's kind of how it felt. And I was like, this isn't living in TJ's honor, not at all. Like, I have got to do something and something drastic because I can't live like this for the next, whatever it was going to be, years. And I was in the shower, I was washing my hair. I'm like, what can I do? What's the most exciting thing I can possibly do? And I was like, I don't know. I don't care. I just don't care. And then I was like, okay, well, pretend you don't feel grief. Just pretend for 2 seconds that you're not in grief. No, don't care. Pretend money's not, pretend money's not an issue. Because after, your kid dies, it's not an issue. Okay, nothing's coming. Pretend you have 1 year left to live. You have 1 year left to live now. What will you do? What's the most exciting thing you could possibly do? And I was like, I would go to Italy for 3 months. And I would finally follow my dream of having food television, and I would make wine, I would make cheese, and I started getting lighter. I would harvest olives. I was like, oh, a bit of relief. And so I ended up doing it. I started a blog, Chop Sizzle Pop, and shot my first 8-episode little mini series with a tiny little camera, and harvested olives and made cheese and made wine, traded my time, worked on farms for like 16 hours a day to exhaust myself. So I started sleeping. Money became a non-issue because I traded my time to work there. And I did this for 3 months. I got back and I called it my food bliss moment because it pulled me out. It was like changing my loss in a cellular level. And I was adding in joy, passion, dreams, fulfillment in an environment that didn't remind me of my pain necessarily. It's kind of inescapable, but it's a new environment, exciting. And I was like, this is food bliss. And this works. Adding joy in helps so much, helps heal. I was like, when I heal all the way and I go to New York, I moved to New York after that, and I figure out how to make shows of my own, I will do Food Bliss for other people. And so now I'm working on Food Bliss as a television show to take people that have struggled with hardship of all kinds around the globe so that they can experience happiness after tough times.
We've got like 8 things to dive into now.
I know.
Right? This is great. Take me back a little bit to I guess I should know kind of what this all means around the idea of bibliotherapy, or we're kind of talking about media as therapy, and maybe give us a little bit of education on that, if you would.
Sure. Bibliotherapy is a term I didn't even know what it was either. I just wrote this book out of my own experience. And I was told by the Midwest Book Review that this is like a masterful example of bibliotherapy. I was like,
there you go.
Cool. What's bibliotherapy?
Yeah. I wrote my notes down too.
So, and then I talked to doctors and therapists and counselors, and there's sort of a known term where it's using literature for healing and for therapeutic healing. And so it just turned into that kind of book because it's a very sort of healing, it's a paradigm shift. And it's a healing way to look at your current situation. It's basically what TJ taught me about life.
Excellent. The book's written in honor of him. And talk to us a little bit about, we'll put it in the show notes so folks can see the book and go learn for themselves, but talk a little bit about what the story of the book is, who the book's for. Yeah.
Sure. So the story behind the story is that it was, we knew it was mitochondrial disease. We knew it was progressive and no cure. We did not know at all life expectancy. We didn't even know it's terminal at this point. And so I finally got into Cleveland Clinic, and Bruce Cohen, who's amazing. And within literally 20 minutes of him seeing TJ, he said, your son's probably not going to see his second birthday. This is Lee syndrome. This is what to expect. And just like laid it all out after, exhaustive months and months of exhaustive testing. And he, in 20 minutes, just not even we weren't even in a hospital room. We were in a white office with my family, and he just knew because he was so skilled. And I can remember going home in the passenger side of the car on that day. It was December 18th, and it was like raining and cold and miserable. And I just remember sort of sitting in the passenger seat, like, I can't even, am I breathing? Can I blink? Like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. Take me, right? Like, I can't do this. And I was like, how can I possibly live through this? I can't do it. And then I got this flash in my head. It was almost like a dream where everything makes sense, even though it doesn't make sense. And it was a flash of these big, tall cartoon horses in the same office as we were. They were our family. It was like exactly my family, as big horses. And then TJ in the middle was a ladybug. And this was cartoon in my head in a flash. And TJ, and we're sobbing. The horses are sobbing because we just learned TJ is going to live a short life. And the ladybug is in my arms, and he's like, why? And I'm holding him. And he's like, why are you crying, Mom? Like, what's wrong? I don't understand. And I was like, oh, we just learned you're going to live a short life. And he's like, yeah, I'm a ladybug. You guys are horses. I'm a ladybug. See, I only know how to be a ladybug. I don't know how to be a horse. And it was in that moment, I was like, oh, and this was literally probably like a nanosecond. And I convinced it was divinity. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is how we're going to do it. And from that moment on, TJ turned from a sick boy into a perfect ladybug. And I was like, okay, he's perfect. If I love TJ, I have to love his disease. I have to love his life not love, but tolerate. And that's part of him. So, he comes with it all. So if I get TJ, I get all of it. So I'm going to, he's worth it. I'll take it, and that kind of thing. And we just changed the paradigm, and I can't even express how much comfort that brought. So
when you held that book in your hands for the first time, talk to us about that.
Oh my God. So anyway, I got home I got home, and literally the next day I typed out the manuscript of The Gift of TJ. I called it at the time. It turned into The Gift of the Ladybug. And it was the 19th of December, and I had it bound, and I got it, and I shipped away to have it like bound so I could give it to him for Christmas. And it came on literally the morning of December 25th. I'm like, please get here. I looked, and I was like, oh, and it was his Christmas present. And I read it to him over and over and over. And then he just became our ladybug, my family, even the city of Columbus, Ohio at the time. I know we have an Ohio connection, and so anyway, I think it was like 2 years after he passed away, again, another like moment. And I was like, I've got to get this thing published for other people. Like, this transformed my entire relationship to this disease, to a child with special needs, to my own life. This changed my entire life from top to bottom. I've got to at least put it out there. Hopefully it can help someone else going through a difficult diagnosis. I mean, or even just a difference. If you have a difference, it's helped a lot of autistic kids and everything. So I ended up having it illustrated and bound, published. So I published it on TJ's birthday on January 28th, 2 years after he passed away. And it's illustrated and it's a beautiful book. And so the first day I launched it, I did a couple launch parties and we gave away all of the proceeds to UMDF.
Yeah, thank you.
And so, yeah, and it was so fulfilling. And I can remember I had like someone helping me with how many have we done? And it was like, wow, 20 books. Oh, 50 bucks. Oh, $100. And it was like,
amazing.
500 bucks. 1,200 bucks.
It's alive.
It was the coolest thing ever. And so that day of holding the book and then paying it forward and being able to donate the proceeds to UMDF, it was like, I can remember being in my bed that night and being like, I guess I could probably like die tomorrow happy because I think I did what I'm supposed to do in this world. Like I did that thing.
And you generously donated some copies to UMDF too that we'll be able to take advantage of with those who may find this to be a great help. And Margaret, we've seen this before with other pieces of collateral and books and things that help families go through this. I know you've experienced this, Margaret, from just working with our patient families.
Oh, yes. And I actually just talked to someone this week, Carole, that said that your book is what they give their family members to help them shift and persist in terms of accepting. And it's a beautiful, it's a thing you can hand to people and they can develop their own coping strategy surrounding from what they get from the book. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it. And probably every family I know has the book and has used it. But I did just randomly speak to somebody this week that said that, he had purchased many to help others understand a little bit more about what their family was going through.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful.
So these pursuits have taken you in obviously so many new directions. You talked a little bit about your move to New York and getting into the wine business and ultimately the food business as well too. And I'll tell you, we don't have a whole lot of guests who have budding production careers and television shows. Just tell us a little about what that's like in this life. And I particularly want to dive more into this idea of food is bliss, the kind of the therapeutic part of what you do, and share with our listeners of what this can mean.
Sure. So I've kind of loved food my whole life since I was 8 years, as long as I can remember, maybe 5. Food was being in the kitchen with my mom and being at family dinners with my whole family. And we love it. And we're planning the next meal as we're eating the one meal. And every one of our trips are like, well, where are we going to eat though? And so it's just all about food. So when this whole thing went down with TJ, once nothing matters, at least for me, it was like, then anything can happen in a way. So I was like, all right, well, what I really want to do, and I've got to go big because I've got to do something to get myself out of this funk. Right. Yeah. So I have to do something that normally would make me ecstatic. So now I can just like get out of bed and then like train my brain that it's okay to feel happy again and that kind of thing. So I was like, well, that means I have to get back to food. Nothing else will do. And and you know what's so fun? This is a really cool memory when I was pregnant with TJ. So I had a food business in Chicago for 3 years prior to moving to Columbus, Ohio and getting pregnant. And I went into real estate temporarily and it just didn't feel like a right fit. So I'm in Columbus, Ohio and I'm in real estate and I'm pregnant with TJ and I'm watching the Food Network, of course, because I love food and I had food and I just knew, and I had never thought of food media yet, but TJ is in my belly and I'm watching and I'm like, this is weird. That's my future. I don't know how I know it. Again, another divine. I was like, I know that that's my future and I don't know how or why. And how am I going to do that? Because I live in Columbus and I'm in real estate and my sister's moving here and I bought a house.
Right. It's not the math typically, but yeah.
And then everything went down and I was like, TJ implanted this dream in me. He came with him. Like the dream came with him in my belly. To do food and television. It was like he gave me this gift of something to call me forward and to take me into places that were away from the hospital memories and everything. So it was like I had this memory and I did the food bliss experience and then I was like, right, so this works. So I'm moving to New York and I'm going to follow my dreams of food and television. And I'm going to do Food Bliss on the regular, go to Chinatown, have soup dumplings, Koreatown. Like, I'm going to pull myself out of this grief. I'm going to follow my dreams. Like, TJ needs me to live. So this is how I'm going to do it. And so I moved to New York and I took production classes and hosting classes. And then I was like, if you want to do a thing, just do the thing and be the thing you want to be. Yeah. So I was like, well, if I want to be an executive producer, I got to be an executive producer. So I just shot another series and I shot another series and just learned and learned. And then I finally got paid to do it. And I finally convinced someone to pay me to do it. It was a wine importer and I made wine content. That's where the wine thing came from.
Yeah, remind me. So thanks for a little bit more in the background. I know you got a little bit of a marketing background as well too, but prior to all this, like what, were you in this realm at all, in this world at all?
So not well. So I was a gymnast in college. I was, and so I was very much in the athletic world. My two, sports and food, are my two passions. And so I worked for Nike right after undergrad. And then I realized, I'm not a corporate girl. If I was going to work for a corporation, it would be Nike forever. I'll never wear another shoe. I love that place and all my people there. Yeah. But I was like, I'm going to go back and get a master's because I need to be an entrepreneur. And so I did that. And when I was done with that, I was like, I need to do food. I have to do food. And so I started a food business. It was Fun Young Foodie Club in Chicago. I was living in Chicago at the time. And we would follow James Beard chefs. We did like a Marshall Fields culinary studio cooking class, making sausage with the James Beard chef, Paul Kahn, at the time.
Cool.
Oyster tasting or chocolate tastings. And so we tasted our way through Chicago in this business. And I loved it. But it wasn't as financially rewarding as I wanted. And so I thought, well, I have real estate as a business at home and I want to raise a family. So I think I need to go back to Columbus and be with my family and do real estate. So yes to this is where it started, but it was in no way, shape or form media.
Right.
And then it was food. And then it turned to media when TJ was in my belly.
Your point is you set a dream to go for it. Right.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. Have you considered a balance beam, cheese plate, and Pinot Noir at the same time? And I'm just curious. Now, that would make a heck of a show. Probably one time, but
what a great idea.
Well,
can you have wine and cheese and do something on beef?
I'm sure I'll expect a little credit on the roll at the very end there. But...
And if I get anything, royalty.
Margaret, we talk a lot about UMBF of finding different ways to find peace and to channel this type of energy. And Carole's no exception to so many of our volunteer leaders who support other families on this journey. And I know it's something that you get to see all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. With our Support Ambassador program, it's a peer-to-peer support program. So families are connecting with families and it's really like the experts with the expert. Our patient families are the ones that really know what the deal is and have walked the walk. I saw, like I said, I did a little research before talking today that you had reached out and connected with some families early on. And I know that because somebody told me this week that you still connect with some of the families on social media and through other little ways. So what was the community like for you early on? And then, even now when you get to sort of check back in with some of those folks you met all those years ago.
They're the most amazing humans I've ever met, I think. I mean, the resilience, the bravery, the courage, the ability to just get real. Like, this is something happens to your child like this, and you cut all the crap. You just go straight to the real stuff. And so the relationships are so deep, immediate, deep, and there's a shared experience that is just kind of irreplaceable. So I absolutely love every family I've met, and I've connected through many families through the book, which has just been so beautiful. And like one of the families, for instance, has like an etched polka dot like on her son's like tombstone, for goodness sake. Or there's like people that I think there's at least right now there's about 8 people in the world that have tattooed ladybugs on them from this. And so there's really profound ways of connecting with these people. And a couple years after I launched the book, I did a Ladybug celebration week. And so I connected with a family through the UMDF over in Texas. And so I did a big donation to the University of Texas Mito wing. went over there, and we did 250 books and a big signing and reading, and met as many Mito kids and families as we could, and did the walk and everything else over there. It was so amazing. And Katie Hebert, oh my gosh, she's one of my favorite humans in the world. Oh my gosh, talk about it. And she has a Mito condition, and she is living like the fiercest person you've ever known.
Love it.
And this is, I want to say, still like 8 years ago, I want to say. So I went over there and I was like, let me do my own like little mini Make-A-Wish for her. And we did an American Girl Day party. And she mostly was in a wheelchair, but sometimes not at that point, and tube fed. But we did like this whole, we went to American Girl Doll, and she walked there for part of it. It was amazing. And she tasted some of the icing, and we got her a Volkswagen Bug and an American Girl doll in a wheelchair. I mean, it was like, we just had the best day of all time. And so she's come back to New York, and we've seen her. We're friends on Facebook for sure. And so that's been a really particularly special family that I met through you guys. But I mean, there's countless.
Yes,
really
it's
special.
Such a close community.
Yes.
The ability for everybody to connect, and the openness to connect as well too. And Margaret, I think it's safe to say that for most families in our journey, it's required as part of that therapy. It's required as part of their coping with managing the disease. It's one thing to have someone really great like Margaret who picks up that phone and can help shepherd in services for patient families, but when it's coming from another mom, another dad, an aunt, uncle, brother, or sister, it makes all the difference.
Oh, well, you're right, Brian. And, there's research out there about peer-to-peer support services and what that actually can do for patient outcome. They live healthier, happier lives if they have someone to walk the journey with them. Yeah. And this kind of ties into Carole. A lot of the things that you've talked about are ways that you get from giving. And I certainly can tell that in many of the stories you've told. It's always, I see the joy that you feel when you've helped somebody have that experience. Talk a little bit more about that in your times with the gift of the Ladybug, because I know that for many families that was a real gift.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I wanted to say that Katie is doing great. I just want to say, like, phenomenally amazing. There was this beautiful thing where she did her dream and sung like on a theater stage, and like she's crushing life.
Awesome. Which
is just so fun to see. But as far as giving back, yeah, it does bring joy. That's true. What Oprah says is true. Like, it's a selfish act because it makes you feel so good.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's just been fun. I mean, it's been like literally a dozen years. So it's had all of these iterations, which has been fun, and it changes as I heal and change and grow. And it's just such a beautiful way to, well, I think I used it in one way as a way to sort of honor TJ and keep him sort of in my life. And also just, if I can find a way through that brought peace, like I want to give it to everyone that's had to live this, like, because it's horrible. It's not fun. There's nothing fun about it. However, it's the most meaningful and amazing thing that I've ever done in my life. And if I had it to do over again, I would have TJ every single day of the week, and every part of it. All the pain is 100 million times more the beauty of what he's given me, the purpose that I've gotten in my life from it. I mean, the lessons that I've had from him. So that's part of it. And I think it's just connected. Yeah. The biggest thing is I want people to know that they can do this. Like, they can get through, and you can. And what TJ taught me is there's a way to get through peacefully, joyfully, and happy. I mean, it seems crazy, but it's true.
And you found the gift to give in that process too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've actually lived it. And on the other side, like, come through a way of dealing with the diagnosis, which was the gift of the Ladybug paradigm shift. And then with living with critical illness and special needs child that took, a lot of time, and it's ridden with fear and all of that. You don't know what the future is, and it's scary and it's hard. And still, with him teaching me and the gift of the Ladybug, like, framework in my head, it was like, I'm still going to cherish every day and every minute. And it gave me a framework to live in peace. Not always. I mean, I was as scared as everyone, and screaming into pillows and hitting punching bags too, but therapy, all the stuff. But the thread was, you can have peace in your life, even though this is like maybe one of your worst nightmares at the time. But it turns out to be the thing that I needed in my life, and was always going to be the most meaningful part of my life. So we got to change that story.
Such a big and awesome perspective.
Yeah.
You seem like such a moth to a flame sort of person. What's next for Carole Mac?
Ah, well, that's fun. So remember I was talking about food bliss, that food bliss experience that brought me joy. So that experience taught me that it's truly possible to heal through joy, not only tears therapy and community, but through joy, literally unbridled joy. And that is possible to feel after loss and during the fear, the diagnosis, the living with, all of that. And that was something that was just so profound to me. So I literally manufacture joy on a regular basis, intentionally, all the time. And that was the reason I moved to New York City, and I do like food bliss, my own little food bliss adventures. Like I'll go to a spice store and pick things I've never seen and like have an amazing cook something that is fun and different on a regular basis. And then also now I'm last summer I did Food Bliss, which is we made the pilot of Food Bliss, which is a 50-minute. We're shooting for we're shopping it right now for a streaming network, I guess you can call it. So last summer we went and shot Sicily, because I was like, this is the year. I'm ready. I know how to make shows. I've done it. I've lived it. I feel healed enough to do this and do this well. And so the guy who plays Hamilton on Broadway right now, Miguel Cervantes. Yeah. Are you familiar with him?
Oh, yeah.
They lost a child to epilepsy about, I think it's 3.5 years now ago. It's so sweet. Adelaide, Ladybug. Are you kidding me?
Oh my goodness.
I know. And so Kelly, his wife, I had just been very only knew of, I'd sent them the book, and I barely knew them. I had only met him because I went to the show, and I was like, Kelly, just randomly, can I take you to Sicily and blow your mind apart with food, because I want you to feel joy again. And I want you to know that it's possible to be happy. She was like, I'm not sure I'm ready to be happy yet, but you know what? Let me check with my husband and I'll get back to you. And she's like, yes. He says, yes, let's go. And so we went to Sicily, her favorite food. And she's been in the restaurant industry, but she loves food and wine, had never been to a vineyard. Cannolis was her favorite food. Right. So we took her to amazing pastry and made cannolis. We made sausage with a Michelin-rated butcher on 200-year-old tree trunks, and then al fresco outside, grilled it on a vineyard with the sommeliers, and tasted the wine with it. We went to the sea and got red prawns. Shrimp's her favorite. One of our other favorite foods. What are your top 5 foods? We're gonna do them in Sicily. Awesome. And so it just blew her mind, and she was like, oh my gosh. She got back and she was like, I call it my Sicily standard, but it's
exactly right. It's no more Olive Garden.
yeah, right. And it's so much more than that. It's actual joy, infusing joy into your life heals. She was like, oh my gosh, now I know it's possible to be happy again, because I was in Sicily. So how do I bring that into my everyday life? And so we shot it. We're shopping it now. It's fully amazing. And we've planned out season 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Oh my goodness.
And,
Margaret, we need to bookmark this episode. This is going to really help our ratings. We've got celebrities on here now. This is great. Selfishly speaking. Yeah, but all kidding aside, just the ability to find people when you do and where they are, and to have this perspective for them. What a gift in that exact situation there. Yeah.
I know, it's so exciting. She literally just put out a book, is putting out a book. I think it's launching in November, Normal Broken. And it's kind of a how to get through grief book. It's really super special. So if anyone is on the other side and wants a little help, that's a great book. And she mentions the show. It's really fun, but she's doing great. She's paying it forward. It's amazing. Yeah.
We'll make sure we put all these resources in the show notes, as it's always so important that we can provide information to our families, any part of the journey. And you've made that very evident too, Carole. What else, before we let you go today, what else is good for our community to hear? What else would you like to share?
Okay. I would say, regardless of where you are in the process, you can have peace, you can be happy, and you can find joy. Not all the time. And it's also okay to allow all of the ugly feelings and to feel every single one of the fears and the exhaustion and that is also okay. But that it is also possible to find peace throughout the entire process. And, hopefully there's happy endings for most of the people out there. And regardless, it's possible to be happy and joyful and live a very fulfilling, lovely life and have the best kid in the planet.
Well, I know Margaret and myself included will be feverishly Googling you for the next several months just to keep tabs on what's going on. But if that's like the classic podcast question, where can people find what's happening with you?
Oh, that's so fun. So Carole Mac, CaroleMac.com is my website. And my Instagram is at Carole, CaroleMac, MAC. So those are probably the two best ways. Gift of the Ladybugs on Amazon. So that one's easy to find. And hopefully the show it's going to be a minute before the show comes out, but
we will be waiting with forks and knives ready to go. So,
so
Carole, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing such a wonderful perspective and your journey. We don't take it for granted that it's not always easy to do this, but for you to be able to share your gifts with our audience today, just know it's so meaningful to us to hear from you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's literally been an honor. I feel like such a full circle moment. And I'm just super honored, and thank you. And you guys can do it. Anyone watching or listening, you can do this. You can do this. You can do this.
Thanks so much, Carole. Margaret, we're careful with throwing on the word inspiration a lot around our organization, because my goodness, every single day we are inspired at UMDF. But just some of my takeaways from this conversation with Carole, I wrote down really big: unbridled joy. If that's not a message for all of us to take every single day, I don't know what is.
Oh, it was a very touching conversation. I feel like very descriptive in terms of what many of our families face, with a new diagnosis, and to see her journey bring comfort and a path forward that looks a little bit more positive for some of our families. I know that her joy is infectious for sure.
Of course. I'm feeling it right now.
I know. And the idea that we can do anything.
That's
we
right.
really can.
That's right. And you said it earlier, Margaret, and I think it's important for an episode like this that for those who are tuning in, our patient families that are looking for support in many different ways. That's what UMDF is here for. You mentioned to always check out umdf.org to see our resources. I know you're a phone call away, Margaret. We're so fortunate to have you as truly a patient concierge. When in doubt, when feeling a little alone, when feeling a little panicked, pick up the phone, find us online, and make sure we can connect. That is probably the one thing that for 27 plus years now that UMDF has mastered, is the ability to connect and connect you with others and resources as well too.
Well, the message is we are here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even if you've talked to us and you're having a rough day and you're like, oh, I don't want to bother. No, we're here.
That's right.
Please call. Any questions, any concerns, if you just need to talk to somebody, please call.
Margaret, I'm grateful that you were here today with me and co-hosting with our special guest today. As always, check us out on social media. Of course, our YouTube channel where you can see this episode and so many others, and provided great resources for patient families. And always just good to be with you, Margaret. Thank you so much for your time.
Great way to spend an afternoon. Thank you, Brian.
All right. We'll catch you later.